Houseplants are extremely popular right now, and pandemic brought on a lot of that and brought in new gardeners. So these are some myths you're going to see. And number one is water your plants weekly on a regular schedule. Not true. What you need to check them weekly for sure. But depending on how big the pot is, what type of houseplant it is, the light situation, and if your heat is on them or if there's a cool area that they sit in, they're not going to need it weekly. You're going to need to check them, and then during the summer they will, and once they're actively growing, then they're going to need a lot more water. And number two, put rocks at the bottom of a pot to help with drainage. So there are new containers, a lot of really pretty containers that do not have drainage. Now, I wouldn't plant in them and expect it to be able to stay dry at the bottom with just putting some rocks. I would either put a hole in it or I would put a container inside of that container. Terracotta is my favorite. You can take it out, you can check it, you can see if it's wet, stick your finger in it, and so it's much easier to grow and much more successful. Number three, brown leaf tips means your plant is overwatered. My opinion, again, not true. It's interesting, this is a very interesting fact to me, that if the tip is brown and it's symmetrically brown and there's no irregular shape to it, then that is generally, it is too dry. But there can be other problems with a brown tip too.
Well, in our municipal waters, I know we've got both chlorine and fluoride in particular. So there's some of these thinner-leaved plants, spider plant, that can actually brown off because that fluoride gets carried to the tip.
Right.
Avoid it by just taking your water and just let it sit on the counter for 24 hours. And the fluoride and the chlorine both evaporate into the air.
And ferns are like that too.
Ferns
right. It's that thin leaf. If
leaf.
it's a thicker leaf, you really don't have as much problem. So, and then number four is put your brand new plants in a bigger pot right away to encourage them to grow. Not true. A lot of times, Androcina or Sansevieria, they like a tighter pot. They do better in a tighter pot. But you can tell if the roots are tight by feeling if it's a plastic container. If that container feels hard and rigid because the roots are hard and rigid, well, then you do want to bump it up slightly. But if it is soft and the soil is not very taut when you put your finger in it, then the roots are not that root bound. And honestly, houseplants do better with a smaller container, less chance of overwatering. And then number five, mist your plants to increase humidity levels. Not true. Unless you are a professional grower and you have a 1 hour, every hour you have a 1 second mist go off, but that's no one but a grocery store or a professional grower. Like we do have that convenience in the greenhouse. But a lot of times if you have a container and you put it in a saucer and you put rocks in the bottom of that saucer and then you fill it with water. So the roots can get to the water if they need it, but it also does help to evaporate, and it is much more for humidity that way.